Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you very much for joining. My name is Scott Brown. I look after the specialized sales and productivity applications within AWS Amazon Web Services. Certainly my pleasure to be hosting Working and Learning from Home, AWS solutions for remote employees, students, and contact center agents. And while we've had these solutions and services in market for quite some time now, I think given the climate and the timing, this is an opportunity for us to reintroduce those services and also, more importantly, to help provide a little bit more of a detail around them, as well as next steps in terms of how to consume them and make them actionable within your environments. I'm joined today by Yasser El-Hagan. Yasser is our technical leader for a service called Amazon Connect, as well as Mr. Jeff Ferris. Jeff looks after the Amazon end user computing portfolio of services, and then Joe Trelli, a specialized solution architect who is responsible for Amazon Chime. From an agenda perspective, what I hope to share just very briefly is our solutions for remote employees, students, and contact centers, and just do a quick introduction to each one of the services that we'll cover off on. More importantly, how to get started, and specifically around Amazon Workspaces, Amazon Connect, and Amazon Chime. And then the next steps in Q&A at the end, and certainly you'll have myself as well as the three other presenters on board to answer any and all questions that may come up towards the end of this presentation. It should come as no surprise that for many of us, the way we work is changing. And again, there have been many of us that may have spent our careers and lives on the road. But if you think about the globalization of the economy, and it's really driven a need to be able to work anywhere with anyone at any time, and to be able to be productive at all times, regardless of where you are in the world. Now, you can no longer assume that your work gets done within the confines of a traditional office. And I know at some point in time, we may have each jumped in our cars in the morning and driven into a physical office. And what we're finding today is, number one, that's no longer necessary, given the fact that we do have capabilities and technologies to be productive, regardless of where we are. And number two, we oftentimes can be more productive, given the fact that we have tools and capabilities and access now, regardless of where we are or what time of the day or night it might be. And then finally, organizations are certainly increasingly looking for options for employees to work securely, again, from any location. And this is really critical because, again, you want to make sure, number one, that you're productive, but you also want to make sure that each and everything that you do, as well as your team members are doing, is secure at all times. Now, again, I don't really have to remind anyone of the current climate with respect to the COVID-19 and the remote working scenarios and situations that we're currently covering. You know, AWS and Amazon is no different. I mean, certainly we have been impacted by this crisis. And first of all, I want to make sure that I wish everyone the best and hope you're staying safe and staying at home. But the pandemic has really impacted and brought to light how we live, work, and communicate, and the necessity to be able to continue on, again, regardless of our traditional environments or our traditional workspaces, and how we stay productive and connected working from home in this particular situation. And there are an increased number of remote workers, and that does place huge pressure on traditional IT teams to be able to respond accordingly, provide secure and fast and easy access to not only corporate applications while their employees are working from home, but also specific and discrete lines of business applications, so I can still continue to reach into my partner community, my customer community, and make sure that I'm providing the response that they're accustomed to and that they deserve. Many of our customers, even pre this particular climate, have been working alongside us, and we're helping them answer questions, you know, similar to how do I enable my employees and students to remotely access the applications that they need. And as I said earlier, it's not just communication to be able to send an email or maybe jump on a web conference, but it's also the ability to access discrete lines of business applications, whether that's a virtual learning application, whether that's an ERP or a CRM application. The ability to do so in a way that's secure and consistent, regardless of where I may be. And again, talking about students, it's a dramatic change if you are traditionally going into a classroom every day and you're used to consuming knowledge and learning from a professor that's at the front of the class. And remote learning is something that's been around for quite some time, but to shift that into a broad scale consumption mechanism and be able to enable your classrooms and your students to learn remotely and to do so in an effective manner, we're helping customers realize that every day. And then certainly keeping in contact with your customers via your contact center. And you know, again, if you're familiar with the contact center world, many of them have historically grown up as physical places where you drove into work and you had a cube and you were looking after your customers. And that hasn't changed universally around the world, but we have seen momentum to be able to have Your contact center agents look after their portfolio of customers and remediate needs and answer questions from a remote environment. And so again, we'll be talking a little bit around that today, but that's something that we are seeing more and more momentum around. And then finally, I mentioned security. There's always a consistent drive in terms of my VPN services and how they can scale to handle not only peak demand when you have unexpected events, but also that they require their employees to have that security level when they're working remotely. And we will touch upon each of these areas today. But as some of you may know, AWS is actively helping and has been helping for quite some time organizations around the world to quickly scale their technology and their infrastructure to accommodate remote workers, virtual learning via the student population, and then also contact centers who are able to have their employees and contact center agents and representatives either work from home or another secure environment where they are able to stay safe, stay engaged, and stay productive. So from a remote work and learning solutions perspective, as I said, these solutions and services I'm about to share with you at an overview are certainly not new. They've been in our portfolio and within our family for quite some time. But again, it is important for us to be able to either introduce them and or reintroduce them to the audience at a high level. And then we'll certainly cover off on a little bit more detail as each of our respective presenters has a chance to share. But if you think about Workspaces, Amazon Workspaces is our managed and secure desktop as a service solution. And it helps mobile and remote employees access their applications and the needs that they have by delivering a cloud desktop, which is accessible anywhere in the world with an internet connection using any supported device. And with Amazon Workspaces, your remote workers get a fast, responsive desktop of their choice that they can access anywhere, anytime, and as I said, from any supported device. Amazon AppStream 2.0 is a fully managed application streaming service. And with Amazon AppStream 2.0, your remote workers or students can access desktop applications that they need at any time. And AppStream 2.0 streams your applications from AWS again to any computer, including Chromebooks, Macs, and PCs. With AppStream 2.0, you can pay for only the time your students are streaming applications, plus a reduced monthly applications fee per student. You can easily scale your application streaming to any number of users across the globe without acquiring, provisioning, and operating hardware or infrastructure. Amazon WorkDocs and makes it easy to collaborate with others from anywhere and lets you easily share content, provide rich feedback, and collaboratively edit documents. You can use Amazon WorkDocs to retire legacy file share infrastructure by moving file shares to the cloud. Amazon WorkDocs lets you integrate with your existing systems and also offers a rich API set so that you can develop your own content-rich applications. Amazon Chime is our unified communications and collaboration service, and it lets you meet, chat, and place business phone calls within a single secure application from anywhere. Now, you don't need to switch between applications to collaborate, and you can instantly go from a chat to a call, share your screen, and even invite more people to join your meeting. When it's time for your meeting, Amazon Chime will call you on any or all of your devices as to ensure that you're never late and your meetings start on time. Amazon Connect, which is our contact center as a service, enables businesses to have a fully operational contact center that can be operated virtually anywhere in the world. Agents, supervisors, managers, and admins can work at home and still be able to perform all the normal contact center activities. Agents can also make and take calls. Supervisors can monitor and coach agents in real time as if they were sitting in the same office. Managers can view dashboards, run reports, monitor service levels, listen to call recordings, and track performance, all from home. You can set up Amazon Connect Contact Center in minutes and start providing the best possible customer service. And then finally, AWS Client VPN is a fully managed pay-as-you-go VPN service that elastically scales up to support thousands of remote users. Client VPN is designed so your employees can access any company resource within both AWS and on premises from any location with one console to manage all connections. And you can create client VPN endpoints, associate them with a VPS subnet, and set up authorization rules so your users can access the resources that they need, whether using laptops or mobile devices. Now, you may ask why AWS for remote work and learning. Again, as I said, these services were part of the AWS portfolio and have been part of our family for quite some time. And it really bodes to how we grew up in terms of the security that we provide with respect to our infrastructure as a service. And this is really where it really started with AWS, is providing secure and scalable infrastructure, regardless of where you are in the world, and the ability to consume on demand. And this is certainly evident in our scalability value proposition as well. If you think about the ability for AWS to host, for example, Amazon Connect, which is our contact center, and bring on tens and thousands of agents to respond to either an influx in business or maybe a critical need that an organization might have, and to do so at a very rapid pace without investment in physical infrastructure and servers, et cetera. And then as well as how we actually provide a consumption-based model when you get started with AWS. And our core philosophy around how we go to market, and something that's been present since day one of our organization, is really consuming the services on your time on demand and only paying for what you're using. So again, if you think about a true subscription model, this actually allows you to have a on-demand service, pay for the consumption that you need. If you don't need it any longer, you simply don't pay for it. So very, very simple and very straightforward. Now, with respect to next steps, I am eager to get us rolling here and to get started, and it's my distinct pleasure to turn this over to Yasser El-Hagan. And as I said, Yasser is our global technical leader for Amazon Connect, which is our contact center as a service. So with that said, Yasser, take it away.
Thanks, Scott. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Amazon Connect. So Amazon Connect is our easy-to-use cloud-based contact center solution that scales to support businesses of any size. It's open, it's got a scalable platform with a simple and intuitive UI. You can set up a contact center in minutes with no code required. It has built-in real-time metrics, historical reporting, call recording, and analytics are also built in. So you can create an end-to-end contact center solution. We also include native AI capabilities for text-to-speech and AI chatbots, making it really easy to provide a dynamic and personalized experience to your customers. Most importantly, it's highly reliable, it's available, and it's totally secure, built on the best-in-class capabilities that AWS brings to the marketplace. You can set up an Amazon Connect contact center for free. As part of the AWS free tier, Amazon Connect gives you 90 minutes per month of free usage for the first 12 months. You get a local direct inward dial number, 30 minutes per month for local inbound calls, 30 minutes per month for local outbound calls, and a US toll-free number with 30 minutes a month of inbound calls. And you also get 500 chat messages per month. We have lots of assets you can use to help you get started, and we're going to put some links to that at the bottom of the page. We have a getting started tutorial. You can watch a 2-minute video, and we also have a free trial to get started. Amazon Connect has proven that you can create an enterprise-scale contact center in minutes without a single line of code. There's many ways to get started with Amazon Connect, depending on how fast you need to go or what other environments you might have within your contact center solutions. You can use Amazon Connect to create a full contact center replacement, including your IVR, chatbots, automation, contact center routing for your agents as well, reporting and analytics, and so forth. You can also start with just the IVR. So for example, you can use Amazon Connect as an IVR solution to provide automation and call routing. You can also use Amazon Connect with your existing IVR. You can continue to leverage your existing IVR, and once you're ready to route to an agent, you can point that call to a phone number on Amazon Connect. So you can leverage agents and Amazon Connect scalability and work from home functionality. And there's no VPN required. So agents can connect right over the internet and get the full functionality of the contact center. We make it really easy for you to get started once you've spun up your Amazon Connect instance. So this is the UI within Amazon Connect where you can claim a phone number. And in just a few clicks, you can claim a toll-free number or a DID number. We also have a UI for creating the customer experiences you want to provide. So right from this drag and drop UI, you can change the voice attributes, you can create text-to-speech capability, you can create menu prompts, and you can do all sorts of things within this visual editor to create the exact experience that you want to provide to your customers. You can also set up natural language chatbots using Amazon Lex to automate contact center experience or to help collect additional information. And you can embed this chatbot directly within the Amazon Connect contact center. And finally, agents can take calls or chats using a browser-based contact control panel. We refer to that as the CCP. It's WebRTC based, so as long as the agent has an internet connection, a headset, Firefox or Chrome, they're ready to go. The CCP is fully customizable and embeddable in any kind of browser application. You can embed it very easily. Agents can use headsets to take calls directly from that interface. And the contact control panel itself can be customized and embedded in your CRM or any other application you have within your business. This is the contact control panel natively within Amazon Connect. You click on a button within the web application, and this contact control panel becomes available for agents to use. And again, the same interface can be used by agents for chat and/or voice contacts. We also have solutions for embedding the contact control panel within Salesforce and other popular CRM applications, keeping your agents in a single UI that can handle that, where they can interact with the customer information, as well as the contact center calls and chats. So not only can you use the contact control panel on its own as a standalone application, you can embed it in your CRM like Salesforce or Zendesk, and we have other integrations that are available out of the box. But you can actually also take the contact control panel and create a fully customized experience from an agent desktop perspective. You'll notice this solution here by one of our partners is fully integrated, where there's a completely customized experience that the agent is interacting with, and this is actually powered by Amazon Connect. And this is just one of many examples. Now I want to talk about a couple of references from some of our customers that we've seen use Amazon Connect to solve a couple interesting business use cases. Now we have lots of customers that use Amazon Connect at really impressive scale. So for example, Capital One and Intuit have tens of thousands of agents using Amazon Connect. But in this specific example, the American Red Cross was able to use Amazon Connect during Hurricane Harvey to stand up a contact center within hours. Not only were they able to address this immediate need, but they were also able to leverage the intelligent and modern contact center approaches from Amazon Connect's skills-based routing and get real-time analytics and historical reporting, as well as leverage some AI-powered sentiment analysis capabilities from AWS. Another customer I'd like to highlight is Direct Interactions. Direct Interactions is using Amazon Connect to power a 100% remote workforce. They're saving $20,000 a month, and they're able to onboard new agents in just 20 minutes. Now I'd like to hand it back off to Jeff Ferris, who will get us started with Workspaces. Jeff?
Thanks, Yasser. I am Jeff Ferris. I'm the Global Tech Lead for End User Computing. I'm going to go into some demos today on Workspaces, and if we have a little time, we'll get into AppStream 2.0. Okay, let's talk about Amazon Workspaces. Now, Workspaces is a persistent, secure, managed cloud desktop that workers can access anywhere, anytime, from any supported device. It's your full desktop experience. Whether you're running Microsoft Windows or Amazon Linux, it gives your users that ability to add or remove applications that they may need on their desktop, very similar to what you'd have with a regular Windows or Linux endpoint. So first off, the most important thing when you're setting up these initial services is to create a separate account for your end user services. Now I know, account structure is usually something that you've already mapped out at an enterprise level, but I just really like to reinforce that having that separate account for EUC gives you a administrative boundary, right? You're going to have different administrators in your database spaces or for your general server infrastructure or for general file storage. And by putting your end user compute services in a separate account, you kind of start off in the right foot. You have that separate administrative boundary between your accounts. And with that, we're going to get straight into some of the console here. All right. We're going to start with the directory services. Now you can see here, I've already created some directories. Creating a directory will take about 20 to 30 minutes, so I'm not going to make you sit through that live. We figured we'd try to save the time and go through that here. As you can see, I've got a number of directories set up. Let's go through the creation wizard. You're presented with 4 types of directories, and I like to use the native directory services console when I'm creating the initial directory. You can also do it under the Workspaces console itself, and I'll show that later, but for that initial setup, I find using the full-featured directory services console is the preference. So you can see here we've got 4 different directory types. There's AWS Managed Microsoft AD, Simple AD, AD Connector, and Cognito user pools. For Workspaces, you're generally going to want to use either AWS Managed Microsoft AD or an AD Connector. Now, Microsoft Managed AD hosts the entire directory service as a managed service. You can create a trust between your existing domain. AD Connector uses more of a authentication proxy model. So you'll set up a service account and you'll make that connection from the AD Connector into your existing Active Directory environment. Simple AD works for workspaces, but in most use cases, you're going to want to include multi-factor authentication. And Simple AD does not support multi-factor authentication. So to be able to get that extra credential, that MFA piece, you need to use either an AD connector or Microsoft AD. So walking through the connector setup, you can choose between a small or a large connector. Now, small directory size supports 5,000 users and 150 authentication operations per minute. A large Active Directory connector will support 75,000 users and 2,500 authentication operations per minute. So you'll just size that out based on the infrastructure and the service that you're ultimately defining. Now here you'll see that you pick a VPC to operate in. I've already created the VPCs. I have one set up in my my demo environment, and then you'll pick 2 subnets in different availability zones to run those workspaces. It can be any 2. They just need to be in different AZs. From here, you're prompted for your DNS information, your NetBIOS name, your DNS IP addresses, and then the service account information used to authenticate. So we're going to skip that piece and go directly into the Workspaces console and take a look at what it takes to now provision a system. And again, you can see that I've already got a couple of workspaces set up here, but we'll go ahead and create a new one. I mentioned earlier, there's a directory services console available here. This is the Workspaces version of that. So we're going to go to one of those directories now to set some configuration options at that higher level directory. So select the directory that you want to configure, pull down to update details, and you'll see the ability to set a target domain and organizational unit. This is where you pick the OU that you want your computer accounts to be created in. So for this one, we're going to put that under a Workspaces OU. I've obviously created this OU ahead of time. The security groups are set at the VPC levels. Every workspace has 2 network interfaces. ETH0 is the service interface where all of the traffic flows, the encrypted bits, the keyboard strokes, the mouse movements up and down. That all happens on ETH0, and you don't have control directly over that network interface. ETH1 is where all of the user traffic flows. Anything that the user's doing, anything that they're trying to access, any internet or intranet sites that they're going to, happen over ETH1. So by setting security groups around ETH1, you can control what users are able to do. And that's also where you'll set your routing rules for the VPC in order to give them access to content. Then we have access to internet. Now, your default inclination may be to enable this setting, but for most enterprise use cases, you're going to be routing your internet traffic out through a network address translation or a NAT gateway. So you actually want to leave this setting disabled and then configure internet routing at the VPC level. We also have access control options. This is where you can configure the types of endpoint devices that are allowed to access your workspaces. Now, in the interest of the most flexibility, I generally recommend turning on web access, iOS, Android, Chrome OS, Zero Clients, and Linux. Just allow your users to use whatever endpoint device they want to use to be able to access that Workspaces service. If for some reason you wanted to restrict users and prevent them from using Chrome OS or prevent them from using Android in your environment, you could simply deselect those options here. You'll see that we also support certificates. So you can force the software client to look for a domain issued certificate before allowing a connection. That's another mechanism for providing some degree of endpoint verification. Again, generally in use cases where we're trying to mass enable a lot of users for remote access, I don't usually recommend using these. If you had a particular audit need or requirement where you needed to ensure that endpoint device, then you could issue those root certificates here. Local administrator settings. So at this setting, it's a directory level setting. All workspaces created after the point where you enable this setting will by default have that username added to the local administrators group. If you leave it disabled, the user will just be a local user for that workspace. And this doesn't mean that you can't still use standard Windows security groups. You can go in and add that user to the administrator group later. And this is just a way to default the setting as you create new workspaces. And in a case like this, you may want to leave your users as administrators if you're having them install their own software. IP access control groups. This is a place where you can configure, again, at a directory level, options to restrict IP addresses from which users can connect. So if you were trying to restrict users to only connecting from within your corporate network or when also connected to a VPN connection, you could use IP access control groups to enable that. Okay, the maintenance mode setting here, this is specifically for auto stop workspaces. When maintenance mode is enabled, your auto stop workspaces will spin up once every month for 3 hours or so that any queued Windows updates or software distribution packages can be applied to those auto stop workspaces. For always on, it's not that big of a deal because they're, as it sounds, always on, always up and running. But this is a good setting to turn on if you've got a lot of hourly users and you're not sure how frequently people are logging into their workspaces. And then self-service user permissions. So this is where you can set options for all of your users to be able to restart from the client, to change their drive size, to change their compute type, to change between always on and auto stop running modes, and to rebuild the workspace without having to get into the console. So this gives them some administrative self-service capability in the soft client, and I'll show that in the Workspaces view later. Update AD connector account. This is a place where you can go to change the username and password used for the service account in the Active Directory connector. Generally, you're not going to need to go in here very frequently unless you're doing password rotations for that service account. And then, as I mentioned earlier, multi-factor authentication. So we support Radius authentication. You can attach your Radius server here, configure your information, and that'll give you that MFA capability to enforce that second authentication mechanism for your users. All right, so once we've set that directory service, let's go and take a look at the Workspaces console to actually provision a workspace. So all you got to do after you've got the directory set up, select Launch Workspace, pick your directory from the list. You can, if it's a Microsoft managed Active Directory environment, you can actually create new users here. If it's an Active Directory connector, you'll be able to pull from the existing users. So we're going to add that user. Click Next, and this is where you pick the actual image type that you're going to run for that system. So we're going to go with standard, running the Windows 10 experience. Now, if you have custom bundles, you can assign those as well, and then I'll show a little bit of what that looks like in just a bit. You can provision multiple users in that step, so you can really provision groups of people instead of doing one-off clicks through the console for everything. On the next page, you pick the configuration for always on or auto stop. Always on is great for that always on, just like it sounds, running workspace. Anytime you're going to be running more than 82 hours a month, you're probably going to be better off using always on. Now, for users with a lower utilization pattern, then auto stop workspaces are great. Those are billed by the hour. You can also choose on this page to use root volume encryption or user volume encryption. I'm going to skip that for now because it takes a little bit longer to build. All right, and once you're ready, you'll simply hit the Launch Workspaces button and you're good to go. Now, I've already launched the workspace, so I'm going to show what that looks like. All right, here is the Workspaces client. So once we want to connect, simply enter your credentials, start the workspace. And I'm going to leave the window not fully expanded, so you can at least see the secondary workspace running in my desktop there. But you'll see this is my Windows desktop now running in Workspaces. As I'd mentioned, there are some user settings that you can enable for self-service. We have the ability to rebuild the workspace, to switch that running mode to auto on, always on, or auto stop. And we can resize the compute type here between value, standard, performance, power, and power pro. And you can disable that for your users if you want to have more control and control that purely from an administrative perspective. All right, now I'm going to try to quickly show a little bit about how AppStream works. AppStream is our non-persistent, secure managed application streaming service to provide users instant access to a specific set of applications from any computer, anywhere at any time. So the first thing you're going to do in the AppStream console is create an image, and that's here under the Images tab. You'll go to the image builder. I've already got one running. Just to quickly show what that administrative experience looks like, we can connect to that. And you're going to get that administrative interface right in your browser. So you'll have remote control of that system as an admin, where you can add applications through the image assistant. And you're simply adding them like you would shortcuts. So you see here, I've already added Blender. We have a launch path for Blender. We have the icon path. Save that, and as you walk through the image assistant, it'll get you to the point where that bakes an AppStream image for you. You'll create a fleet that represents the group of streaming instances on which your applications are able to run. The fleet is where you control the capacity for your environment, for the total number of concurrent connections that you can have. And we have some in-console mechanisms that you can use to see the utilization of that fleet over time. This is also where you set tags and you can create scaling policies. The scaling policies will tell you after a certain number of users are connected or a particular portion of the environment is in use, then go ahead and scale out that group so that you have additional connectivity available for your users. Stacks are the streaming resources and policies that control access to those resources. So this is where you'll define basically the mechanism that a user will use to connect. This is where you can enable home folders. You can allow persistent application settings, so somewhat similar to a roaming profile. And you can also set custom branding if you want to ensure your users see a header that represents your corporation or your company. You can set a custom branding header here so that they won't see the AppStream 2.0 header. And what that looks like, this is now using the Amazon AppStream client. I've pre-connected here so we can start Blender up. And this is in a frameless app mechanism. So you can see, you really can't tell that this is running in a remote system other than it says down here, AppStream in front of Blender in the bar. So if I go to open a file, this is bringing something in off of my my home share running in my Active Directory environment. For those of you who've seen me run these demos before, all I really know how to do with Blender is render this little toy helicopter. It's running on a GPU instance. So instead of using the local resources on my system that would take about 4.5 minutes to render this little toy helicopter, the graphics instance that we're running on for AppStream can complete this job in about 22 seconds. So you can see the full quality rendered version of that helicopter there. And then that's saving the output file back to my network share so I can continue my workflows from there. Okay, now I'm going to hand this over to Joe Trelli, who will take us through getting started with Amazon Chime.
Thanks, Jeff, and great to be with everybody today. I'm Joe Trelli, a specialized solutions architect with Amazon Chime. So what Amazon Chime is a communication service that lets you meet, chat, and place business calls, both inside and outside of your organization. And it all uses a single application. We also have a web application, iOS and Android applications, and an Outlook add-in. But developers can also use that same technology and infrastructure with our SDK, and they can utilize video calling, screen sharing to build their own applications. Today, we're going to talk specifically about getting set up to utilize Amazon Chime meetings. So I'm in the AWS Console here, and that's where you find Amazon Chime, just like all the other AWS services. So if I click in here to find services, and I type Chime, we'll click into Chime. It's going to pop out a separate Chime console. And this is where Amazon Chime is administered from. So typically you'll have an admin or multiple who will manage your Chime accounts and also manage your users. And we'll get into a few different types of users you'll be able to have with Chime. But you can set up an IAM policy in AWS, Identity and Access Management, that allows for permission to administer this console. So if you go over to new account, the account page is the landing page you get to when you get to the Chime console. If I type new account, and we'll do test account 3, you'll be able to choose if you want to use all the regions that we support for media or just the regions you select. In most cases, you'll want to use all regions unless there's a compliance reason why you can't use a certain region. So we'll do create account, and there's my test account 3. We'll click into there. So by default, you won't have any users because it's a brand new account. It says you've successfully created it. And there's two different types of accounts with Amazon Chime. There's team accounts and there's enterprise accounts. To start, you'll have a team account. And what that means is you'll be inviting users individually, one by one, or separated by a semicolon. So you just saw I clicked invite users on the top right. And if I were to put in an email address here and click invite users, that person will get an email and they'll be able to hit accept and download the Amazon Chime app and get started right away. And in that case, they're going to use something called LWA, or Login with Amazon. And that uses the credential for Amazon.com retail site to log into Amazon Chime. So you don't need to connect to Active Directory or really create any other identity permissions for that user in this case. Now, some folks, especially in a larger account, might want to connect to an Active Directory or use Okta for a single sign-on or claim their domain. And if you claim your domain, you won't end up inviting users. Then it becomes what's called an enterprise account. And if I click back over to Home, you'll see I have an account here called Enterprise LWA. Now that means that I've claimed a domain. So let's say my domain, joetrelli.com, I claimed, and I put a DNS record into the domains on the left. And when you claim a domain, any user with that domain who logs into Amazon Chime or creates an Amazon Chime LWA, login with Amazon account, will automatically be found in this user list. Now, this doesn't mean you have to connect to Active Directory. It's just an easier way for new users to join your account. You don't have to invite the user individually. It's connected to your domain. So let's say you do want to set up Active Directory. We support AD Connector and Microsoft Managed Active Directory through the Directory Services service at AWS. You can set up a trust or set up a user account from your Active Directory, either on-prem or already in AWS, and then your users will use the same login they do for AD to get into Amazon Chime. And similarly, Okta, if you use Okta for a SAML or other single sign-on solutions, we will connect with Okta as well. So let's just go back over to the user page, click into a user. I'm going to go down to assign permission. In this spot, I want to explain what the difference between a pro and basic permission is. By default, your users will be pro. And what pro means is they can schedule a meeting, they can host a meeting, they can use all the features of Amazon Chime. That also means they can incur cost. But if you wanted to give that user basic permissions, they'll still be able to use Amazon Chime, but they'll be able to use the chat, they'll be able to join meetings, they won't be able to schedule and host meetings or incur a charge. So we find that many organizations will provide Amazon Chime to all their users, and then they might granularly set up some users to be pro. It's up to you how you want to do it. Some folks just turn everybody on pro, and you do have that option, and you can change the permission right here on this screen. You can also use Active Directory to set up groups and manage the permissions in your AD versus in the Chime console. It's up to you how you want to do that. A few more things to talk about within the Chime console. One is you can assign users a phone number. If you want to assign users a phone number, you go to Home, click on Phone Number Management. I have a bunch of numbers already here. I would go over to Orders and provision a phone number. I can choose business calling. So what business calling allows you to do is assign a phone number to a user. That user can then make and receive phone calls right from their Chime app. The same app that they're using for chat and for meetings, they can use for them. So if you click business calling, click next, you can search by location, by area code, and you can actually provision a number. So I'm in Connecticut. I'll do area code 860. Number comes up. I can provision it, and it'll just take about 30 seconds to come up. And then I can actually assign that number that I just provisioned to a user that's in my account. Let's click into an account here. Let's click on this user. Assign phone number. Choose one from the list and click assign. And now when this user signs out of Amazon Chime, signs back in, they'll see a number in the top left corner of their screen. They have a dial pad. They can dial out, order pizza, whatever they need to do. To claim a domain, you'll click domains on the left and then click claim a new domain. You'll put the domain here. Let's try joetrelli.com. Verify this domain. What's generated is a text record that will be placed into your DNS. And what this does is it verifies ownership of the domain. Once you put the record into your DNS and we verify that, then new users who sign into Amazon Chime with that domain will automatically get added to your account, like I mentioned before. Until it's verified, you'll see the status as pending, and this can take up to 24 hours. Let's click on Dashboard on the left next. Dashboard gives you some insights into the meetings your users are holding and attending. I don't have much activity here because this is a demo account, but you'll actually be able to see and click into a meeting, see who attended it, how long the meeting was for, what the meeting satisfaction was. We actually provide a thumbs up, thumbs down feature at the end of each meeting, how many chat messages were sent during that meeting. It gives you some insight into how the solution is being used in your organization. Next, let's click into meetings on the bottom left. You can enable or disable shared screen control. You can also enable or disable outbound calling to join meetings, and that's using our web app. In this section, you'll be able to see what percentage of your meetings were hosted in what AWS region. To provide the best meeting experience and lowest latency, we mix the media for each meeting nearest to those who are attending. You'll see the meeting processing percentage here of where the meetings took place in what AWS region. You'll want to make sure that use all available regions to ensure meeting quality is selected and click save if it's not already. After you send out the invitation to a new user, you'll see the registration status is unregistered and the invitation status is pending. Once that new user clicks accept, this status will change to registered and the invitation status will change to accepted. If you need to remove a user, you can click the checkbox next to their name, click on User Actions, Remove User. In the Amazon Chime console, we try to make this as easy as possible. You can get started pretty quickly with a team account and just inviting users, move up to an enterprise account by claiming your domain while still using the login with Amazon credential, and then move into Active Directory or Okta single sign-on if for a larger organization or as you roll out to more users. Thanks for your time today. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Joe Trelli, Specialized Solutions Architect with Amazon Chime, and now I'll turn it back over to Scott. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Joe. And also thank you to Yasser as well as Jeff for covering off on the other service areas that we talked about today. What I would like to do is just in summary, share a little bit about how to get started, and then certainly we will move into an active Q&A session. We do have some very focused offers to help net new customers, and certainly we want to make sure that you're aware of these and you have the ability to take advantage of them right away. You know, again, if I start from our cloud desktop applications and content collaboration and thinking again about our Workspaces service, you know, we do have an offer right now you can take advantage of immediately to be able to provision up to 50 workspaces through June 2020 at no cost at all. Similar to AppStream 2.0, up to 40 hours per consumption, which is allows you to actually instantiate and test the service at no cost. And then certainly from WorkDocs, you can take advantage of up to 50 users through June 2020. Again, all at no cost to you as a subscriber and as a consumer of these services. Within remote communication and collaboration, Amazon Chime, all the Chime Pro features at no cost through June of 2020. And then finally, Amazon Connect, our contact center as a service, you can certainly use up to 90 minutes of volume and traffic on Amazon Connect, either in an outbound or an inbound mode, free of charge for the next 12 months. And from a next steps perspective, I would certainly encourage you, if you don't yet have an AWS account, please jump on and sign up for an AWS account so you can learn more about these and other services contained within the AWS portfolio. Get started with any or all of the special services that we covered off on today. And again, these are all designed to be able to provide easy access and timely access to be up and running and productive and actually use some of the services that we covered off on. And finally, our shared goal is to be able to empower you and enable your remote employees, your students, and your contact center agents to stay productive, stay safe, and stay connected. With that said, again, I want to thank you very much for the time over the course of the past 45 minutes, and let's move into an active Q&A.